that's what you know. And that's why it's important, guys, if you're listening, to do the work on yourself, even though it can be so difficult, because you're going to be peeling back these layers and having these aha moments of like, oh man, I thought my life was great until this, you know? And
I hope that people just start to recognize, like, we all have bad moments and bad versions of ourselves, but like in general, like, you're amazing. Whatever you have,
thank
something.
you. Oh, it's not just for me.
Everybody,
No.
you're amazing. But like you are supposed to offer something unique to this world. You were here for a reason. Like, the world needs you. You're amazing. Even in your worst moments, like, you're amazing. They're pieces of kind of trying to get over certain things, but you're supposed to be here. You have something to offer. And I hear so many people down on themselves or judging themselves. And I just think, like, God, if you didn't do that, you know, and if you just accepted, who cares that you're shy and you don't want to be at a Red Sox game on Marathon Monday or something like that. And you think
that's
that
too much.
something is wrong with you because you don't want, there's nothing wrong with you. We need every version of people that we have. Of you have a gift, you're supposed to do something, like, you're amazing. Stop talking bad about yourself.
Exactly. And that's what I always say to people too. I'm like, own it. Like, yeah, I'm a needy bitch. I'm a needy bitch.
Yeah.
Like, and I will always be that person. You know, I will always be that. And it doesn't matter. I just enjoy it. And it's funny because one of my best friends is so different than me. And she, you know, we talk about relationships, and she's like, oh, you would love all the love letters. I'm like, daily. I would love them daily. And then I would like a song written about me.
And then when something's in the sky. But I just think that, like, there's so many people, and it's funny that there is an element to, like, maybe sometimes if you didn't have the most attentive background that you needed, or you lost a parent, like, early in life, I have, like, can you swear in this part?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I have, like, this, I've always had it too, which is not good. One thing is, my father was like, you could do anything you wanted. You know, he always said that you could do anything. You're one of the smartest people I know. You could do anything. And I was kind of like, you know, for a couple of years, I was like, I doubt that. And then I was kind of like, yeah, I could do anything. And then he died. So that message stopped, and I was left with that message. And I was like, I don't give a fuck what you say.
Yeah.
Like, I'll do whatever I want.
Right.
You know, and like crazy stuff
Yes.
that, like, I think everybody was like, oh God, even my husband, I can tell my husband's like, what are you doing now? And I'm like, I just bought a hot tub. And he's like, oh my God, you know, of just, I have that about me. Like, I don't care what anybody says.
Right. Just press the go button.
And
you
I
know?
feel like I have that because he said that for so long, and then he died. And so I was just left with that message of, I could do anything I want. So I could do anything I want.
And I it's funny because Karen and I went to Mexico together a few years ago, and another profound moment for me. Anyways,
When we got stuck in the airport.
We got stuck in the Dallas airport for 16 hours,
Yeah,
but then, I had just gone through, like, I was dating this guy, and he had a double life, and long story short, I was going to go with him, and then I found out he had a double life, and Karen's like, are you still going to go? And I'm like, I don't know. My life is miserable. And she's like, well, you already paid for it, so you should just go. And I'm like, all right. And so I go, and I have this, like, beautiful not hut, but it was like this beautiful hut, and all to myself, right on the water. And I'm like, this is good. And I had asked her, I'm like, Karen, what do I wear? And she's like, oh, it's just, whatever. Nobody cares.
Nobody's there.
Nobody's there. Nobody cares. And I'm like, all right. So I just showed up looking like I hardly packed any makeup, nothing. Day 2, I'm in the pool, like belly flopping, whatever. And then all of a sudden I saw this guy come walking
down the beach is the San Diego fire department walking down the beach to our resort, and I was like, she's gonna kill me.
And I'm like, what? And like, literally, I had no idea. So I saw, like, and they were pretty well built They didn't have shirts on. They were very.
It was like a movie.
It was a movie, and so I saw one, and then I saw another, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, we're the San Diego Fire Department, and we're here, staying with you guys." And I was like, "Ah!"
And
I'm
you
like,
had a great time.
I had a great time. I ended up having a great time. Those guys were really, really nice, and so, but that was kind of like a side note, but. Every morning, Karen and I would get up and I would text her and I'm like, are you with your husband or you want to go for a walk? So, because again, I was the single one there. So we ended up every morning, early morning, 6 a.m. We'd get up, we'd take a walk along the beach and there was all this real estate. And Karen was the one to be like, should we buy something? Should we just go in and buy something? And then that way we can go here whenever we want. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's good. Like you and I are the only ones that are like, I think I want to do that. And we do it.
Yeah.
Like right away. Like we don't think about it. We do it. And you actually helped me in the beginning stages of me being like open to changing my life, going way back when I was going through my divorce. Like, I don't know what to do. And Karen taught me baby steps. Like she broke it down. She's like, okay, so you live at home. What do you need? And I'm like, well, I want my own place. And she said, great. So how are you going to do that? And I'm like, well, I don't have a job. And she goes, well, you probably need to get a job first, So I got a job where I made just enough money. And then through that job, within 2 months, I got my own place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, you just have to start. You just have to make a commitment to yourself to continue to start and go and see where it takes you, And one thing for me, guys, when I was talking about how I lost everything, Karen taught me the resources on how to achieve the things that I wanted to do by doing the healing work and being gentle with myself. And I know at one point she said to me, she's like, well, what are you going to do? And I go, and this is just like your father gave you that, like, you can do whatever you want. And so you just started doing that. You said to me, you're like, well, what are you going to do now? And I go, I don't know, but I know that I want to be happy. And so I knew whatever it took for me to be happy, I was going to do that. And at that time doing readings, I was in the like baby spirit tiff moments of like doing readings for friends and people that I knew. And so I started doing that. And then all of a sudden I decided I'm going to do this full time. And I did. And
amazing.
And now here I am today.
Yeah. Amazing.
That was something that was so, profound for me because it changed my world.
Mm-hmm.
It changed my world. I tell the story of in those moments of, getting a part-time job so I could afford getting a house or an apartment on my own. I was on my way to the part-time job. I went to Dunkin' Donuts to get a coffee. And like I would do every single day. And the coffee was like $2.50, whatever. And I gave my debit card and it got declined. And again, guys, I had that job, but it was just a job. It wasn't a career. So it gave me just enough money where I always joke saying like I was in the best shape of my life because I couldn't afford to eat. Like it was like, do I pay rent or do I eat today? So yeah, I was pretty skinny back then, but so this was one of the days where I was going to spend $2.50 to get a coffee, and it got denied. And I said they gave me the coffee anyways, just so you guys know. But that was the moment where I'm like, yeah, okay, Tiff. I told Karen I was going to do whatever it takes to make sure that I'm happy and my life is being like soulful and being provided and living in that abundant state. So I started to take in more clients, and I was scared to do it, but I did it.
Right. And like being in that like awful. I can remember I was not a good student in high school. So this is through no fault of the educators there. I didn't take home books and I didn't do anything in high school. And but then like senior year, all of a sudden everybody's going to college, and I was like, oh my God,
what am I gonna do?
We're going to college now? And
yeah.
I hadn't applied to college, so I went down to the resource person and I was like, I want to go to college. And they were like, we could probably help you be a Patriots cheerleader.
What?
And I was like, I don't want to be a Patriots cheerleader. I want to go to college. And they were like, we can't help you. And so then I went home and tried to figure out how to apply to college. And I was like, that's how people see me. Like, how I can't be this person. I don't want to be this person. But like maybe I fed into that person. That's what they saw. That's what I fed them. Like that's what I thought I could be.
I hate that.
And now I can say I have numerous degrees. I did go to college. You know, but like just feeling like so shamed of just I can remember like just feeling so shamed, and you kind of are stunned in that moment, and then doing something with it. Like, how do you crawl out of that moment and keep going through that moment of, I think that's where, and if you can't, then find help, find somebody else that's kind of like, yep, you can do that. Even if it sounds crazy, you can do that.
And it can be a lonely walk down that road.
It is, and it's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be painful because it's profound, and it's a moment that you can do something with if you choose to do something with, you know, so you're supposed to walk it alone.
I remember my mom telling me, you'll never be a leader, you'll always be a follower.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Judy, we love you.
I love my mom.
This is generational trauma kind of thing.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, and I just remember thinking like, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Like I literally thought that. Like I'm like, no, that's not
what's going to happen.
Yeah. And now it's funny because I am in therapy. I love therapy. And my therapist said, she goes, you're an initiator, Tiff. And the statistic that she told me is out of maybe 100 people, there could be only 4 initiators. And I'm like, that's how I see myself. Mm-hmm. I don't see myself as a follower. I think the information that my mom got was because I was always trying to be inclusive with friends. Like I always wanted to be included. Mm-hmm. So I was very aware of what everybody was doing because I didn't want to be alone.
Right.
I wanted to be, which is ironic because my trademark is we're never truly alone. So I never wanted to be alone.
Like a Freudian slip right there.
Exactly.
To every fiber of my life.
Yes. But I never wanted to be alone. I always wanted to be included in something. Mm-hmm. That's all. So it wasn't that I wanted to be a follower. I just wanted to be included.
Right.
You know, but as being an initiator, it's, you know, I also feel like I come off to some people because I have a bubbly personality most of the time. I think that and it's not even like my perception. Okay. I'm saying it to be generalized, but a lot of people do see me as like, oh, hi, yeah, I'm Tiff, la, la, la. And they don't understand like all the amazing dimensions about me.
Right,
you
right.
know?
How hard it is, what a strong fortitude you have to like do this and build this and create this and grow this. So it's all the time.
Yeah.
I think it's hardened me to a certain degree.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I notice, so when we talk about like that pause between like stimuli and reaction, right? Like sometimes I catch myself having like that knee jerk reaction of like, what? Like, why can't you just see me for this? Or what? Like, you know, like I get, when you say it's hard in you, you just want to be like,
and I think
open your eyes.
Of that. Yeah. I'm just like, no. And people are like, oh, and I'm just like, what? Let's go. You know what I mean? Like even sometimes people in therapy are like, and you said this, and I'm like, you didn't take it that way, did you? You know? But I mean, life is fast. Moments are quick. And I think people can get stuck in stuff easy. Like you have to keep the machine going for healing too. Like, yes, you have to be gentle and you have to be in tune and you have to connect with it, but you could lose years in suffering, you know?
Absolutely. And like keeping up with therapy is a non-negotiable, you know, like if you guys are listening to this, think about it this way, like going to the gym or working out, right? Like you can't just stop. When you stop, you actually see the physical difference in your body, right? So that's why it's important. Like, get out there and go for a walk. Get out there, do some push-ups. You know, like there's other ways that you can work out besides a gym membership, but keep your body moving, right? And but that's something that should be part of your lifestyle. So if you don't have therapy, if you're not talking to a professional about what's going on, like all of yourself at this present moment and future stuff, if the past stuff hasn't been going through a healing process, like you're just adding more and more layers. So why wouldn't you want to moderate yourself and regulate yourself into, okay, now that I've learned some coping skills, now I can handle certain situations maybe a different way. Maybe I'm not going to blow up and have a tantrum, you know?
Right. And also you're keeping a connection. As mammals need to be connected to people. That's why we see animals in zoos, so sad. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
We need to be connected.
I'll adopt them. Don't worry, I will adopt them. Yeah.
But like, you would be surprised, even the times that you have a session with your therapist that kind of seems like nothing. You're wondering, what did I get out of that? Your therapist is still listening and remembering, and you'd be so surprised, like, what they kind of put in their, mind to, and it comes out later, well, in these little tiny ways, because, like, it's the little ways that can also get you tripped up of, okay, you said you didn't have money last month, and you said you didn't have money the month before that. What's going on with that? And you don't even realize, like, that was in their train of thought that they were thinking about, but they kept that in the back of their mind, and they're starting to see a pattern, so they're kind of bringing it up to you, like, wait a minute, and you're like, oh yeah, we've never really talked about that, but I can't save money to save my life. Okay, what's that?
Right. Yeah. So this leads me into this, right? So, like, obviously, my therapist knows me very well, but what if, because I get this with certain people, I'll say, maybe you should go to therapy, like, and I'm, again, pro therapy, so I'll always say pro therapy is the way to go, like, try it. Oh no, I have a good support system, my friends and family.
Your friends and family will lie.
Friends and family is what getting you into. Yes. So can you, another, like, I want to vomit. So for people that are listening that are like, oh, I don't need therapy. Like, my best friend knows it all. Mm-hmm. So what would be like...
I think the good part about therapy is there is that kind of separation, and there isn't this, emotional blowback that might happen in this relationship. So they can, and they're skilled, they're trained to gently bring up things that could be threatening by other people. Like, your best friend can't be like, why are you poor as shit? Do you know what I mean? I know you make so much money, and where's your money going? Because you'd be like, none of your business. Don't count my money. You know what I mean? So your therapist obviously would say a different reason about that, and you're also in the mind frame to kind of hear it. You know what you're there for, and if you have a trusting connection, you can hear it so different from your therapist to say, let's think about this. Like, this is a repetitive pattern going on in your life. What is that? And you're in a place to unpack it a little bit. Right.
And that's, also when you're telling your friends or your family, like, they're giving you their opinion on their perception or perspective.
And usually fed by you, right? Yeah. And I mean, not the same thing happens in therapy, but maybe there's a little more awareness, like you're getting one side of the story, and people are trying to represent themselves pretty well because they don't want to be judged by you either. So you kind of know all that ahead of time.
Right. And I find that sometimes people are nervous to be transparent with their friends because they, again, we don't want to hurt their feelings. So we're going to give them a soft blow of, oh, okay, well, maybe if you just try this instead of, like, how many times have I heard my friends say to me through all the relationships, not that I've had a lot of relationships, guys, but, oh, I didn't like him the first time I met him. And I'm like, you could have told me that so many months ago.
But maybe you wouldn't have heard it
right
the same way because they're your friends. But if your therapist is saying, okay, let's look at the red flags, it might land a little bit different.
Right, exactly.
And it's important, like, why shouldn't everybody have, like, a trained professional confidant that we're lucky enough in the United States, most people have insurance that covers it. Why not?
Right.
Like, you're worth that.
I pay out of pocket because I have crap insurance. But that's how important it is to me. Mm-hmm. That's how important it is to me because it is a valuable asset to my life.
Yeah. And everybody deserves that. Everybody just deserves a place to land where there's you have no expectations for yourself. You can just put it all out there.
Right. I mean, if I think back to, we were talking about our careers, and if I went back to my mom being like, Mom, nobody booked a reading, she'd be like, well, you got to get a job then. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't have anybody telling me otherwise, and I didn't have my personality that I have, I would be miserable at a job, working 9 to 5 in, like, business cash, and
maybe have, like, lunch on Fridays, maybe.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember my last job. They were like, "Hey guys, we get to wear jeans on Fridays. And it was like, everybody was like high-fiving each other. And I'm like, this is my life.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, I'm so glad that I did that because I learned how certain businesses were run, and I learned how to treat people and what's important in treating people that you work with and just people in general. It's being a kind person, being respectful. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many topsy-turvy, curvy. I'm like, me. Turvy ways around life with the trauma, with the triggers, with, you know, and you touched base on something too, where it was, there are some sessions where, like, I'll go to a session and I'm like, my life's pretty good. You know, like, I don't know. Should I skip a week?
I look at that as that's my data collection week.
Okay.
You know, when people do that, or because I see a lot of men like just have a hard time. And maybe this isn't just men, but this is just my clinical experience of I can tell by their face they're done with this deep stuff. Do you know what I mean? And so then I have to make it a little bit lighter, and usually I have like dogs in the background or something like that.
Yeah, like my dog's barking out. Yeah,
like,
as
so
always.
that I'll shift the energy on purpose to get a different variation of themselves where they're a little more open and they're just kind of telling me things because I just want to hear. Right. What are you experiencing? What is your life like? Kind of, I want to hear it because I'm using it as clinical information later when we're kind of unpacking something heavy. But you do, it's valuable to shift energies in therapy and just kind of have that regular kind of conversation, just getting to know each other better. And also, like, you're building a bond. You have to give something in therapy. Like, no, I am not, like, gonna lay it all out on the table. I'm gonna say something later, but they need to know something about me. Like, they're trusting me with a lot for them,
right?
And it's not fair. That's not how relationships go. They have to know something about me. And I know people are like, oh my god, you shouldn't tell people how old you are. I'm like, 47. Like,
who cares?
They deserve to know.
Yeah,
you know, because God help you. Like, I was a therapist when I was like 25. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. I didn't know anything. I don't know what I was doing. I was primarily doing substance abuse work, so that's a little bit different, you know, but like, as far as parenting and adulting and finances, like, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes you have to learn with experience.
Yep.
So I'm going to throw you a curveball, which isn't a curveball, but I know, our listeners want to know, because here's another catchphrase: narcissism, being a narcissist. And there's only like maybe 2% of people that are actually narcissists. Like, what is a narcissist? And I know that's why I'm like, I know we're kind of switching topics, but it's a hot topic.
Right.
And it shows up on my timeline all the time.
Okay. So narcissist personality disorder, the personality disorders have pretty much been, folded away in terms of clinical diagnoses.
Can you give us an example of a couple of
well, they're not there
disorders
anymore, but like borderline
so
personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder.
I know we've been talking for hours.
It's not like sociopathic, but
schizophrenia?
No, that's a mental illness.
Oh, that's a mental illness. Bipolar,
personality disorder.
Bipolar is
a mental illness. Like, but borderline, you know, a sociopath, kind of, those are personality disorders. But we don't really use them anymore. They've kind of been phased out.
Okay.
What people don't understand when we're talking about personality disorders is it's an ego wound. So there is missing parts of people's egos that are not fulfilled, that they're trying to get fulfilled from other people. It's an infliction. Like, yes, I get it. Their behavior is not wonderful, but they're still people in pain. So I hear more of, you know, personality disorders almost with an eye roll. And like, oh, you know, this borderline of, that's a person in pain that actually has an insatiable ego wound that needs your love, needs your attention, even sometimes needs you to engage in fights with them because there is just this overwhelming sorrow that they live with on a day-to-day basis that they cannot maintain.
And what is that usually caused from? Like, I mean, I know we
Well,
can't pinpoint, but I guess it would be like parents being unavailable to them and their needs not being met.
right. And that could be inadvertent, like, by Freudian standards, like moms get bad raps for everything, know, and it could be inadvertent that like it just people didn't know about it, or sometimes just things happen, like nasty things happen in schools of like, friend groups isolate a certain person and that kid still has to go to school every single day. They still have to live there and kind of look normal and kind of just eat it.
And it happens with male and female.
Yeah,
like,
certainly.
I think so many times everyone's like, he's a narcissist. And I'm like,
I know. And also understand too, not to a great value, but like we all have aspects of it. Do you know what I mean? And they probably come out in our not so great moments of it's a way to protect ourselves. There are certain cluster of behaviors that are to protect ourselves from some vulnerability that's kind of showing up. So I feel like it does get a bad rap and is often misused, but I don't even know the percentage. That kind of sounds like sociopathic percentage when you say 2%. I'm not sure. Okay. But like narcissism, there, and that's an idea that you come first.
Right.
In all senses, you come first. And obviously that's a maladaptive way if somebody's using it that way. But that is something that comes from a wound.
It always just, it fascinates me.
Yeah.
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 It fascinates me. So that's why, and that just seems to be like, I mean, some of these catchphrases that I'm getting is like narcissism, neurodivergent is another one.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So what's neurodivergent?
I am not that great. Like my wheelhouse is kind of trauma.
Okay.
So I am not that great in those kind of, that stuff. Also eating disorders. If you came to me with an eating disorder, I feel you. I can't help you. Like, I don't know anything about that, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess with certain eating disorders, it usually comes from trauma at some point.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know.
Right.
Because I haven't really spent a whole lot of time doing, treating that particular thing. I mostly do if the trauma symptoms kind of come up or they're kind of linked to a substance abuse kind of thing.
And then what about, because nowadays I feel like, here's another one, is would ADHD or being ADD, would that be connected to a trauma?
I think they have a lot of evidence about like different kind of neural pathways that are used with ADHD and ADD. They could. They're also like there's this whole movement that's kind of talking about trauma is going to overtake everything. Like trauma can be linked to almost every single kind of symptomology. So that hasn't happened yet, but we certainly see a disorganization with a lot of trauma symptoms that might look like a whole bunch of different things.
And then what about, like, I'm just like rapid fire here with like, okay, can we talk about narcissism? Can we talk about neurodivergence? Can we talk about attachment disorder?
No.
Can we talk about
attachment disorder? Maybe attachment disorder has like a lot of interesting features in it. Attachment just in itself, like, the different types of attachment style of there can be anxious attached, anxious avoidant attached, avoidant attached. That doesn't happen too often. Just look at the definition.
Yeah.
And then, just a regulated attached to any one of these. Like, and that can change all the time. Just because you're an anxious part of the attachment does not mean you'll always be an anxious attachment. It's really kind of fostered through who you're attached to.
So
somebody can, but here's the thing. Here's part of your trauma, right?
Yeah.
You live with this need to be attached. So you live in an anxious attachment state. So you actually find avoidant attachment people. Because that's what you know. And if a really well-adjusted person comes by and is like, no, they would get you with let me buy you a taco. You'd be like,
yes!
I'd
be like, when's the wedding? When's the tacos especially?
Yeah,
okay.
when they're like, let's talk about paint colors or something like that, you'd be like, let's not, and move along, because that's not something that your energy is really drawn to right now. You're drawn to, maybe this is just an example,
right?
Maybe you're drawn to an avoidant person because you have that anxious attachment already in you.
Oh, let's get rid of that.
I know.
Next session, we're going to be working on getting rid of that anxious attachment.
And that might not be the case. That's for you and your
right.
therapist.
This is all just,
but that's what happens with us all the time.
Right.
Well,
because again, one of my friends, I brought this up at another episode or earlier on, depending who's watching and what. But I brought up, I'm the type of person that wants to be included in everything. In relationships, I am I feel like, I am needy. Like, I love the quality time. I love the words of affirmation. I love, just being being someone's first.
Mm-hmm. But I have also kind of seen you, once that is established in a relationship, and you're well on your way in a relationship, it might turn the tables a little bit, and you might turn more to an avoidant attachment with, I'm busy, I'm traveling, I'm going, because then you oscillate between the two and never really regulate with just kind of normal attachment.
And I need to just regulate with the normal attachment.
Yeah, it's hard.
Because my friend is the exact opposite. She says to me, she's like, I would hate it if I got love letters every day. I would hate it if people texted me good morning, good night. And, meanwhile, I'm like, that should be a given.
That's a standard.
So with her, she's probably more so where I have the attachment association. She probably has the disassociated.
Or normal attachment.
Or she's normal and you are an aggressive bitch.
That could just be that could just be she doesn't need that extra effort.
That's true too. Well, guys, too, everybody that's listening, we always have to think that everybody thinks like we do and is going to react like we do. And when they don't, it literally is almost kind of like we're lost. Like, well, I would, if you know me, if you text me, I'm going to text you back within the next 5 minutes, unless I'm in a reading or doing a gallery reading.
No, you would text me back and say I'm in a reading. And if I didn't get a text from you within an hour, I would be driving to your house because something's wrong.
Yes. Yeah. And that is by consistency with everybody. That's just how I am. Right. And so when I text someone, I have to be mindful of the fact that they're not on the same timeline as me.
Right.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So again, there's so many other things where I'm like, what else? But, one thing that I learned from you have a podcast out. What's the name of your podcast?
Let me quote my therapist.
I love it. I actually was on it. I was the first guest on it.
Yes.
So I can't wait to share it with everybody once it's ready to go.
It's going to come out in a few months.
Good.
So it's the best advice you've ever got from your therapist.
My advice was keep going. No. That's what I should have said, actually. I was trying to think of something soulful and mindful. I should have just said keep going. That's the best advice. But I just lost my train of thought on that one.
I was probably actually the first guest. I was interviewed the first time, and so because I don't allow myself to be vulnerable enough, I don't really have a therapist, but I had a SCORE mentor for many years who was wonderful. He built my businesses.
So what's a SCORE mentor, so people know?
SCORE is through SBA, and they are volunteers, very successful business people that volunteer their time. That is a totally free service. Anybody can go to SCORE, and you talk about business with them. They make business plans. They kind of brainstorm ideas. He built my businesses. I was like, I don't know, I got an office and I got some people and I don't know. He was like, okay, let's really break this down. So for years, and he split the businesses in two. So there's two separate businesses. I have a realty company and I have a clinical business. The realty company is very, very separate and just rents offices to therapists, and I give them business mentoring to have your own private practice, and then my clinical practice, and they're two very separate things. And he was wonderful, but he probably had no idea what was happening to him when I kind of came through the door with a 3-year-old, because I had a 3-year-old girl who quit daycare at 18 months. So she went everywhere with me. And he was always like, well, let's talk numbers. I'm like, let's not, you know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't want to. And he was like, I need to know your numbers. Like, I don't know where we stand. If I don't know your numbers, let's talk them. And every month I used to come and be like, oh, I forgot it. He said to me, next time come with your profit and loss sheet. I was like, where do I get that? And he was like, oh my God. And so finally, I'm sure I showed up again without my numbers. And finally he was like, do you have a business or do you have a hobby? Because if you had a business, you would know your numbers. If you have a hobby, you just have ideas. And I was like, oh. And I never forgot my profit and loss after that.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was my best advice.
Wow.
Yeah. And like, you know what was a better advice of, he held me accountable. I wanted to, even though I fought it, I wanted to sometimes use, you know, being a woman as like, you should go easier on me, or like, poor me, I'm all alone.
I remember having this
alone.
conversation with you.
Yeah, I was using that to my advantage with him, and he was like, no. You're coming here. You're telling me you're a business owner. This is what we do with business owners. Show up with your numbers. And I was just like, okay.
You're like, I just pooped my pants.
I was like, oh my God. He's so mean to me. I can remember too. My office flooded one time. Flooded. Yes. And I was so upset. Obviously, my building was in ruins and everything. And it was a disaster. There was insurance companies and receipts, and it was a disaster. So the next time I went to him, I was a disaster. And he was just like, what's the matter with you? I'm like, everybody's so mean to me. The insurance company's so mean to me. The condo board is so mean to me. He's like, who's being mean to you? This is business. Like, get your stuff together. And I was just like, okay, nobody's being mean to me. I just need to get my stuff together.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you could have said to me, like, Tiff, everybody's being mean to me. And I'd be like, what's up with them?
As your friend. Yeah,
as a friend.
Let's go there. And
let's go. I'll show them what's up. Who's being mean?
That's the difference between mentor and friendship.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And that's the difference between a hobby and a business.
Right.
You know, and it's funny because I had Holly Christensen Daniels on.
I love Holly.
Holly from Dune Jewelry. And we talked about, you know, starting a business from the kitchen table up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know.
That's what we all did.
I actually met Holly through Karen. Side note.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's one of those things where we as individuals, we just have to take the responsibility of ourselves.
And it's hard.
And learn.
Yep, it's hard.
You know, so when we talk about like what are our takeaways in life, we get our takeaways, like my takeaway from therapy, which I don't even know if I should share because I don't know if, maybe I won't share it. Maybe you guys have to just listen to the podcast that Karen's going to put out. But there's always certain takeaways. But one thing is that you have to be consistent in your growth, whether it's through your traumas, whether it's like finding out that you have to have that inner strength to go out on your own, to be independent, to making your own money, to having your own business and being successful at your business and owning it. You know, that's one thing I always say to people is like, own the good, bad, and the ugly. Own it. Own the fact that, you know, in my career as a spirit medium, people, so many times I deal with skeptics, and it's fine to be a skeptic. It's fine if you don't believe what I do. That's okay. But I still have to own that I'm Tiffany. Like, I can't not own it. I can't say, oh, okay, well, if I did accounting, would that be better for you?
Right.
You know,
or change it because other people are
right.
like, no, I don't get it. Like, you'll find the people you need to find if you're just true to yourself. But to be true to yourself, you need to work through things that make you want to change.
Exactly.
I think one of the things that we were talking about the other day is I heard Brene Brown kind of say she researches vulnerability. She's a social worker that does a lot of research, and she researches vulnerability, and she was surprised to find out the opposite meaning of belonging is fitting in, because you actually have to betray yourself to fit in.
Right. Meaning also on a spiritual level, nothing, you have to get down to like, there's no such thing. There's nothing. There's not like everything is nothing before it becomes everything.
Yeah.
So on that note,
thank you so much.
This was
so
fun. I know. We can just like go.
I know.
And you're like,
production's probably like, please stop.
Right. I know. It's awesome because it's like there's so many ways that we can go through like Let's talk about narcissism. Let's talk about anxiety. Oh, one thing I wanted to bring up is I find that there's so many people that are, I know we talked about different types of mental illness, different types of disorders, but why are we finding that there is so much anxiety out these days? Like, there's so many people that are going through anxiety, and then the Adderall fixation on anxiety, which I don't know if you want to talk about that part, but as far as like anxiety goes, like, why do you feel like there's been an influx in anxiety?
Well, you wonder if there's been an influx or anxiety, or people are identifying it more and there's more acceptance to talk about it. Like, you always wonder what came first. Was it always there and nobody was talking about it? You know, also, we just went through a pandemic. Like, who wouldn't be kind of anxious?
Life has changed for everyone.
Yeah, like this wave of illness was coming that killed so many people. So we're still reeling from that to a certain degree and we have all these ways. I just came to the conclusion of I am not an anxious person, really. I don't live in an anxious state, or I don't connect with it too much. I literally, to deal with my anxiety, and now on reflection, I can remember that first Wednesday that I had to shut down, and being like, wow, all this time and I'm about to lose it. Like, I'll be bankrupt. Everybody's going to leave the office. Why would they stay? You know, this is crazy. I'm about to lose it all. And I just started walking, you know, just to like kind of deal with my anxiety. And then I signed up for another master's degree.
In your spare time.
Yeah, just go to school and keep the machine going, you know, and signed up for another master's degree. I've now come to the conclusion I actually don't need it, and I don't think I'm going to finish it. It's super interesting. It was in public health. But that's how I dealt with my anxiety I think we recognize it a little bit. I don't know if it's more, but we certainly have more pressures. Things are more expensive. Problems are more confusing. You know, there's access to the whole world that we see like terrible things in all the time. So I think that maybe the pressures and the stressors have gotten heightened, but maybe we can talk about it a little bit more.
And do you think a lot of it is attached to those that are on social media? Do you think social media has a huge...
Yeah, I think social media could certainly affect anxiety levels. They distort reality. Terrible. Like, oh, these girls that like...
I know.
I mean, I find myself being like, oh my God, I need to lose 30 pounds. And I'm like, oh God, who has time for that?
Right,
you
exactly,
know,
exactly. It's like an imaginary bubble.
Yeah,
you know?
So that can really kind of distort just the real life situations of this is what it's supposed to be like, but it seems like it should be something different because we keep seeing something different on social media.
Right. And I get that. It's like there's, you know, a lot of, whether it's like body dysmorphia or everything always looks better, right? Like the grass is always greener on the other side. Mm-hmm. And that's what social media is.
But that's what it's supposed to, that's what we don't realize. Like, you knew watching television 25 years ago, this isn't real.
Right. Like we would make fun of the reality TV. Yeah, like, oh my gosh, what is
real? Now it's so part of everything that, you know, that seems like that's a reality that people should be striving for when it's really just completely made up to sell things.
Well, not only that, but I also find this is kind of correlating with the anxiety part. Like, I haven't really turned my TV on in God knows how long, because I will go down the TikTok rabbit hole for like 2 to 3 hours a night.
Yeah.
Before I go to bed. And the thing is that it's like 7-second videos.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to get that message. Okay, get that message. Okay, scroll.
7-second videos that took 23 takes, and there was a stylist and a hairstylist, and that person got lipo and lashes and all sorts of stuff, you know, that you think it's just, oh my God, that's what a girl looks like. No, that's not what a girl looks like. That's what a model made for that second video looks like.
And I always say it too, because like on my Instagram pictures, like I just did this amazing photo shoot with my friend Mark Dunn, and we hired a stylist, we had a makeup team, we had a creative director, there was a lot going into that day. I didn't just throw on a nice dress and do my hair and say, here I am.
But
So like,
nobody thinks of that. When they see that picture, they're like, oh God, I wish I looked like her.
Right. That took like a couple hours to prepare, you know, like even if you guys are watching now, obviously these lashes are not real, you know, and I tried my best doing my makeup, you know, because I am self-aware and I wanted to I wanted to just feel a little bit good, and it made me feel good.
Look at, we're conditioned to, this is what we do. To be here, this is what we do.
Yes. And it's crazy because when I started my business, and to this day, I still do, but I would show up in leggings and a hoodie. And that's why when I created my apparel line, it was hoodies and yoga tanks, because I was all about the casual look, and I still am.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is actually an athleisure outfit, so, but it's black. So I'm like, if I wear black,
my
at least
dress
my
up
dress
leisure
up. Yes.
clothes.
Yes, which I have like 20 pairs of black leggings. From Booty by Ray-Bans. But, you know, it's crazy because, you know, we are conditioned in so many ways. But I do find that idea with the anxiety and like how we should look and how we should act has been playing like has taken a huge toll on us.
Yeah, certainly.
Lately. And that's with the Adderall as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. Okay, so there's a documentary. If you guys watch the documentary on the Adderall, I watched it recently. Well, a year ago. But that's pretty... There's a lot of different types of medications out there.
And medication is not necessarily bad. So.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. No,
Nope.
It's not necessarily a bad thing at all. It's not. All right. So, Karen, how can people find you?
So I don't really have much of a social media thing. Maybe I should. I don't know. But the clinical office is Forgewell Solutions, and
it's in Massachusetts.
It's in Massachusetts.
But do you do telehealth with like people in different states? Or?
No.
Okay, so if you're in Massachusetts, go to Karen. If you're not, sorry.
And maybe in a couple months there'll be a podcast. So maybe that will be
I cannot
easier.
wait for the podcast.
Yeah, let me quote my therapist.
I love that. And guys, if you are thinking about going to therapy, do it. Just do it. It's readily available to you.
Yeah. Find a good fit.
I went through 3 therapists. Well, yeah. I went through 3 therapists until I found my lucky therapist, which I'm so excited. Like, she's probably like, oh my gosh, it's Tiff again.
No,
Same
she's
situation.
not.
Yeah. But there is help out there if you're looking, and you don't actually have to have something major or traumatic to go. It's just keeping your mind in check. And, you know, there are other ways to add on to therapy, like going for a walk. Like, what does walking do?
Sure. Walking has bilateral stimulation, so it uses both hemispheres of the brain as you use both hemispheres of the body. And then there's kind of this process that happens vertically that allows you to just process and work through information. Like people talk about a runner's high. A runner's high is actually the state that you get to, that you're actually working through things and not even realizing you're working through things. So that's just a combination of kind of the adrenaline and stuff like that happening with your brain.
And I think that's great because it's funny because when I'm in an anxiety, like when I'm living in my anxiety, I find it really hard to like just get out there and go for a walk or get out and work out. But then if I force myself, like sometimes I literally have to force myself, I'll go and then I feel so much better.
Yeah, so much better. It's amazing what that can do. Those basic like life skills of sometimes when we get people, you know, that have depression or something, sometimes we're really working with them. It seems so basic of get up and take a shower, wash your body, drink some water, eat food from the earth, go get some sunshine, move your body. Those are just basic things that really shut down in depressive states. So people have to be prompted to do that. And there's no quick fix. Like going to therapy is not going to fix everything. You're going to do work outside of that. So there's no quick fix to anything. That's not how this earth works. Everything works in conjunction. So little by little, doing these things and combining them all together starts to make a difference.
Right. It's like you can't go to the gym and have this solid workout routine and then eat fast food every single day.
Right. And lay in your bed and not, not do all these things. They all work in conjunction with each other.
Yep. So it's being able to live your life mindfully, soulfully, physically, and mentally, being all connected.
Yep.
So thank you, Karen, so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to have you back, even though I feel like we talked about everything, but I know once we end this podcast, I'm going to think, oh my gosh, I didn't bring up this. How can, there's just so many different levels.
Maybe your listeners will have questions too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of We're Never Truly Alone. Until next time.